Okay, here, all I want to do is recap what we actually have to look at when we talk about the end behavior of a polynomial. I'm just going to do this case by case, right? If I have a polynomial that starts out with an even power and has a negative coefficient, we know that for end behavior, we don't actually have to look at all the other terms. We only have to look at this one. Now, we know what x to an even power looks like. It looks like a bowl that opens up. But when we multiply that bowl that opens up by negative, we get a downward looking parabola thingy. So we know that if we zoom far enough out, we're going to see that. Well, that just means way to the right, the y values are very negative. Way to the left, the y values are very negative. Let's look at the next one. If I have a polynomial that starts out like this, and we want to look at end behavior, we know we only have to look at the first term, so that's all I wrote here. We have x to an odd power. Well, we know what x to an odd power looks like. It snakes up. Yes, and then multiplying it by 17 doesn't flip it, it just makes it bigger, right? And so you're still going to get something that looks like this. Now we're only interested in end behavior, so if something looks like this, way to the right it goes way up, way to the left it goes way down. Let's look at the next one. If I have a polynomial with 1,001 terms, or 1,002 I guess, in order to figure out end behavior, we only need to look at the first term. So here's us looking at the first term. I have x to an odd power. We know that x to an odd power looks like that. But oops, there's a negative coefficient there, which is going to take that graph and it's going to turn it upside down. So we know it's going to look like this after we zoom out. You can do lots of wiggling in the middle, but today we're only worried about end behavior. What does this graph tell us? Way to the right, the y values are way down. Way to the left, the y values are way up. Last thing, if I have an enormous polynomial, this is just a huge, huge polynomial, 1 billion terms, 10 billion terms. If we want to talk about end behavior, we only need to look at the first term. So here's us looking at the first term, and I see an even number there. And if I look at an even power polynomial, a power function actually, because we're just looking at the first term, we know it either opens up or opens down. This has a positive coefficient, so we know it opens up. This is what the graph will look like after we zoom out appropriately. Now what does this tell us? After we zoom out, way to the right, it goes way up. Way to the left, it goes way down. Now these can be memorized. I think it's better if you just actually try to break it down each time looking at the leading term and talk your way through it. It's not hard and it's a good habit to be in.